So hello everyone. So right now we are at Les Diablerte in Switzerland. We are just here for summer school in theoretical physics. So as we have made previous videos on Q&A with researchers, so continuing that tradition, today we have one special guest in that line, and he is Vatsal, and he basically did his undergrad from IIT Bombay. Then he did an internship at TIFR, and we'll talk to him about like the usual stuff that we talk about his interest and what motivated him to choose physics as a career, and then what are his aspirations, what he's working on, and what research interest motivates him. And so let's talk to him and get to know him more. Okay. So hi
Bhaskar.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you here.
Yeah, just look at the scene.
It's amazing.
So let's just start with the basics first, like the obvious questions, like when you were a young kid, like in school, so what motivated you basically? What was the driving factor behind your choice of physics as a career?
Oh, when I was a kid, physics was not my motivating choice. It wasn't my first choice. I joined chemistry as an undergrad.
Okay.
And,
maybe we should keep walking.
Sure.
Like,
and the reason I did that was because I was always interested in understanding the fundamental building blocks of matter. And chemistry used to answer those questions, unlike...
Maybe we should be here because that scene is more beautiful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Unlike high school physics, which was more about classical mechanics and fluid mechanics and waves, oscillations and everything.
Okay.
It did get better by the end of it when modern physics was introduced. But chemistry used to answer those questions right from the very beginning. You know, what's inside the atom? What is it made of? What are these electrons? What is the nucleus made of? How do these electrons arrange themselves? And you know, how are atoms made and how are molecules made? So these were the kind of questions which were quite interesting and appealing to a young student in me, which is why I joined the chemistry program at IIT Bombay.
Oh, you joined the chemistry program?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were in physics.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So that's a revelation.
Okay.
And,
so you were in
but while I was there, I took up physics courses. I took up a lot of
so it was like a BSMS course, or just...
It was a 4-year BS.
4-year BS, okay.
And I took up a minor in physics. Did all those basic coursework in quantum mechanics and relativity and all of those things. Which is when I realized that at some point the chemists stopped answering those questions or asking those questions about what's ever more fundamental. However, in physics, at least in the kind of physics we now do, you and I, it's that question is always important. How does nature look like at ever smaller length scales?
So that was
the reason I switched.
So you did your bachelor's. Basically, it's the bachelor's 4-year course.
Yes.
In chemistry.
Yes.
Theoretical chemistry, you can say.
Oh yes, because after my 4 years, I had the option to convert it to a master's as well by doing a thesis project.
Okay.
And there I did theoretical chemistry. It was quantum chemistry.
For master's project,
for my master's project,
which was theoretical chemistry.
Yes.
So what was the topic about it for your thesis, master's thesis?
Oh sure. So it was quite related to what I was mentioning right now.
Okay.
The question is, in atoms, molecules, materials of any general kind, how do electrons arrange themselves, or how does the electronic state of such materials and matter, how is it described?
Okay.
The way to answer that question is ab initio chemistry. And what I did particularly was study that at finite temperature.
Okay.
This was through a framework of thermal field theory applied to a molecular system.
Okay.
to the ab initio Hamiltonian that is used to describe atoms and molecules. The novelty of the work was that people had done this work in the operator formalism, and I wanted to repeat that exercise in the path integral method just because it's much more elegant, and if you do it correctly, you can have a better description of the mean field. So the idea is to obtain a better mean field description than the Hartree-Fock.
Hartree-Fock. The Fock. Okay.
So Hartree-Fock is this industry standard. Yeah. So there are these two people, Hartree and Fock.
Okay.
So there used to be something called the Hartree approximation, which to describe many-body multi-particle wave functions.
Okay.
It was a terrible approximation because it couldn't even pass Pauli's exclusion principle.
Oh.
In fact, it couldn't even. So the wave function that describes many-body states has to be antisymmetric for fermions and symmetric for bosons.
Okay.
And the Hartree product is just not anti-symmetrized. So it failed. However, there was something called a Slater determinant which precisely did this thing. It took anti-symmetrized Hartree products to describe many fermion systems. Now, the mean field theory that describes a many-body system using these Slater determinants is called the Hartree-Fock theory. It's a rather crude approximation. It's a rather crude mean field theory where certain dynamical fields, which we can now think of as fields, fermionic fields, are replaced by their expectation values. What we can do in a field theoretic formalism is replace, say, two fermions, a pair of fermions, by a collective boson. This is a scheme of bosonization. It's still dynamical. It helps us solve the equations analytically to a better extent. And eventually, before we do our numerics, we get a better starting point for our beyond mean field calculations. So the point of this entire work is that just at the mean field level, we capture more physics, more interactions than at the Hartree-Fock level.
Okay. So that was okay. We can keep walking. So that was in your masters.
Yes.
So what motivated after your masters? You joined. Basically, did as a visitor. Joined as a visitor. You should go back. Okay.
Yeah, we should walk this way.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now it's visible. You should also.
Before it rains upon us.
Yeah. Yeah. So you joined TIFR as a visitor, right? Like
yeah, I did.
Okay. So what made you choose physics as such? Like you then did a project in physics in at TIFR under Shiraz.
Yeah. Shiraz and Sandeep.
Shiraz and okay, you are doing a joint project with
No,
them.
these were two separate projects.
You did two projects there.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So okay. So can you talk a little bit about both of them? Maybe
Sure.
share some light.
I'll start with Sandeep's project because that was the first one I joined.
Okay.
And that project was about the SYK model.
Okay.
Sachdev, Ye and Kitaev gave this model which became of interest to high energy theorists, especially because of the advent of holography. That model, in some sense, describes a very coarse class. It coarsely describes a class of special black holes.
Okay.
And the idea that we have is that this condensed matter system is possibly our way to realize a coarse-grained black hole in an experimental setup.
Yeah.
Sachdev and collaborators also have these recent papers where they propose that when you take a graphene flake and put it in a very high magnetic field, its lowest Landau level would be sufficiently isolated from the next Landau level.
Okay.
And in that case, the electrons in the lowest Landau level can be approximated by an effective all-to-all coupling.
Okay.
Now the question is, can this coupling, can this description be realized by an SYK kind of Hamiltonian? The question we are trying to address is precisely this. Sachdev and collaborators claim that we can do that, and we can do that with the usual SYK Hamiltonian with complex fermions as opposed to Majorana fermions.
Okay.
What we are trying to investigate precisely is if we can do this, can we also do this with a Hamiltonian, with an
You can also
SYK
follow this path. I
kind
think
of
it
Hamiltonian?
leads to the same.
Sure.
Yeah.
With a finite mean for the distribution of random couplings that are crucial for the SYK model.
Okay.
What the community so far has explored is only a model with zero mean for the distribution of couplings. And we feel that if it has to be realized experimentally, there's no good motivation to only look at the zero field model, zero mean model. The work with Shiraz is it's an ongoing work, obviously.
Okay.
Is on the special kind of quantum field theories called
Chern-Simons.
Chern-Simons matter theories.
Okay.
These are remarkable because they are the only non-supersymmetric examples of theories which have which demonstrate this very special duality called the Bose-Fermi duality,
Okay.
where the bosonic theory has the same spectrum as a fermionic theory.
Same spectrum in the sense?
The thermal free energy of the
Okay.
two theories are the same under an explicit map in the couplings.
Okay.
This is highly non-trivial, and you only see this in supersymmetric systems, not really in.
Because both those have different statistics altogether.
Yes, that's what we expect, but not for Chern-Simons theory. The thing is that the fundamental matter is still bosonic and fermionic. They still follow their statistics, but the thermal excitations result in the same quasi-particles.
Okay.
So effectively, it becomes the same theory.
So you worked on a special case of that.
Yeah, right. So in the last 12 or 13 years, people, starting with Shiraz, Sandeep, and their collaborators at Weizmann, Harvard, Princeton, and eventually other places than TIFR, have been, they studied this in flat space, when the theory is solved in flat space, and they tested this duality to extreme accuracy.
Okay.
However, it's a shame that we still don't have a solid demonstration of this duality in any non-trivial manifold, any genus G Riemann surface. In fact, not even on genus 0 Riemann surface, which is the surface of a sphere, since we are in 2 dimensions, S2.
Okay. But you started with the flat surface.
So we actually set up the problem completely general to the genus G Riemann manifold.
Okay.
Then we specialized to the G equal to 0 case of the surface of a sphere. And eventually we took a large radius limit for our first paper and obtained a full agreement with the flat space literature.
Okay.
In our unpublished work, we have now also calculated for the theory on S2, finite radius S2. We have now solved it, which hasn't been done in literature. The reason that was possible was because we made a different choice of gauge.
Okay.
In the literature, people had only used the light cone gauge, and we took up the temporal gauge, which sets up the effective action completely local on the spatial manifold, which helped us solve the theory in this new physical setting. It's yet to be seen, it's yet to be demonstrated that the duality exists on this manifold, because we are yet to solve for the bosonic theory, but that's the state of progress on our work.
So what was the problem we were facing with higher genus surfaces, like for example, say on a sphere or maybe on a different...
You mean higher genus like a torus?
Yeah, maybe.
So that would be, in fact, solving it on a torus might be easier, even simpler.
Okay.
Because a torus is just S1 cross S1. So on sphere, we had to decompose the fermions on the basis of something called spherical monopole harmonics. But on torus, we just have to decompose it using the regular spherical harmonics that we study in school.
Okay. In quantum mechanics courses.
Yes. So it might, there would be some spatial holonomies that we have to take care of, but it shouldn't be difficult.
Okay.
So that would obviously be a quick exercise in our paper, but our main focus is S2.
Okay. So so that's an ongoing project?
Yes.
Okay. So recently you have also got an offer from Cambridge. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
And so you have accepted it, right?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay, so you'll be joining there in September, I think. So what are your plans like? There you have to like do some courses and stuff.
Yeah, from what I hear, it's a really intensive program.
Okay.
And I would just like to formalize my shift from chemistry to physics through this coursework.
Through this coursework, okay.
Through this coursework, and
it will
yeah,
help
I'm
you
looking
build
forward
the
to it.
foundations, like.
Yes, and solidify them.
Okay. So like, do you have any future project in mind that you want to share with us? Like anything that is kind of exciting to you, and you want to work on it, like collaborate with some like-minded researchers, like.
Well, I am really appealed by this recent wave in string field theory literature.
Okay.
People obviously like Ashok Sen and others, group of Sheehan at Harvard.
Ashok is a pioneer of string field
yeah,
theory.
of course. And now you see some young researchers taking it up again.
Yeah.
And particularly the papers that are being written by groups of GN, by the students of GN, have been very interesting, and I'm interested in seeing how that work can be taken forward.
Okay.
The particular problem they are trying to sort of understand is the D-Instanton effects in various compactifications of string theory. And this was a question which wasn't settled clearly when the last wave in this research came.
Okay.
When Witten produced his cubic string theory, and so
Yeah.
one of the interesting works could also be to so Witten gave this cubic string theory for string field theory for open strings.
Yeah.
We still don't have a watertight framework of string field theory for closed strings.
Okay.
It would be nice as a theoretical exercise to solve that, to look for that. There have been some prescriptions, but we have to study that. So that is one future project which excites me, which I've been trying to read and explore more.
And other you have any other in mind, like
yeah,
you
sure.
said
I mean, quite related to this actually is not with string field theory, but still within the framework of string theory, how to realize stable de Sitter solutions, non-perturbatively stable.
Okay.
So there is of course this KKLT formalism mechanism by which there is a prescription of realizing some metastable de Sitter solutions. It's quite complicated and equally contested by the community. But that talks about perturbative stability, or whoever criticizes them for their perturbative instability. We would like to, I mean, I am quite interested in studying the D-Instanton effects that might tell us about the non-perturbative stability of such solutions. And if that is possible, if such solutions can be realized from string theory, then we can have a top-down derivation, or at least a discovery of de Sitter holography. The holography we know only exists for anti-de Sitter space.
People are trying to work on it, but
people have a very diverse set of ideas in bottom-up approaches. And while we continue working on one or many of such approaches, it's also good to try looking for a top-down derivation, like they had like Maldacena had for ADS-CFT. It's changed the face of the field for 3 decades now. And that's the only way we know DS holography works, if at all it has to work out.
So I think we should end it here because you have to also go and join for dinner.
Sure.
Okay. So it was really nice talking to you, and thank you so much for giving us
so much for interviewing me.
And yeah, you must be enjoying here, like the view. And
yeah, the weather is amazing.
Weather
the
is
views
amazing
are
and
breathtaking.
it's a very nice school here. Like, just let me show the surroundings. And you want to go to that Glacier 3000? Maybe we can plan someday. Maybe
We should go day after tomorrow.
okay. It was really nice, and all the best
Yes.
for the Cambridge
Thank you.
and
Thank you so
the
much.
days ahead that you will be in. Okay, so thank you, Vatsal. So it was really nice, and all the for our viewers, like all his archive papers will be in the link somewhere down below, and you can just check it out and drop in comments if you have any questions for Vatsal regarding his research or anything that might be of interest to you. So thank you for watching and have a nice day.